PLP? 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 I'd like to first acknowledge Senator Fred Mitchell, Party Chairman and Constituency Caretaker for Fox Hill. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Mr. Jamal Butler, Chairman of the Fox Hill branch, and all the executives and members of this branch for the invitation to speak tonight. And also a sincere thank you to Mr. Walter Ferguson, Party Vice Chair, for arranging to have me here. Now, Fox Hill, you're a lucky bunch because with the team of Senator Mitchell and Jamal and Walter, trust me, your branch cannot, it will not fail. But to all present, stalwart councillors, party supporters, and members of the public, a pleasant good evening. Now, I'm incredibly excited to be here this evening. Seeing all of you here tonight gives me great hope that our party is doing the heavy lifting necessary to rebuild and transform this organization into the party of choice for the Bahamian people once again. Seeing you here is motivation for me to keep taking our message to young people on every corner and in every constituency. Because, let's face it, young Bahamians today are growing up in an age of turbulent change. We've seen our country blacklisted and downgraded. We've lived through a recession that has crippled our economy. We are seeing growing economic inequality, higher tuition costs, higher bank fees, higher thresholds to get mortgages and loans, a murder rate that is escalating, increased immigration, and the list goes on and on and on. Young Bahamians are living firsthand the challenges of our time. And in an age of instant information, where Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp are constantly feeding us a steady stream of bad news, I know that many young people feel like the system is crumbling just at a time when we need it to work most. So now we see young people shrinking and going off into their own corners, distancing themselves from politics and government. So as I've been meeting more and more young people, I try to encourage them to reject that urge to shrink and to reject the thought that our destiny is controlled by forces out of our control. I try to make the argument that young people should be more optimistic about our country and the part we can play in its development. I encourage young people to have the mindset of author Alex Griffin, who says, "Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy for us to think that nothing is going to get any better." And right now in our country, many things are happening where the powers that be are wishing and hoping and praying that young people remain discouraged, apathetic, and silent. They don't want us to question. They want us to just go with the flow. So I say, now is the time to question. Now is the time to demand answers. Decisions that are made today will affect us for the rest of our lives. Young people cannot be silent now. When I spoke to the Killarney branch meeting last week, I noted that we as the opposition and that we as young people should be paying attention to what was happening with the Commercial Enterprises Bill. Well, this week, now speaking to you here at the Fox Hill branch, it's no longer the Commercial Enterprises Bill. It's the Commercial Enterprises Act. The government rushed through the passage of a bill that was widely criticized and had no public consultation. So just as a matter of background, I'll discuss it briefly. This new act will liberalize the work permit regime in the Bahamas. Any foreign person or foreign company can state to the Bahamas Investment Authority that it will invest a mere $250,000 in a specified business, and on that basis, they can come here to set up shop and apply for a work permit within 30 days after their arrival. And if the government doesn't respond to their application within 14 days, then the work permits are automatically granted. Now, the PLP opposed this bill for many, many reasons. Too many for me to speak on tonight. So I will hone in on one key reason. In 1967, the PLP passed the Immigration Act. Since that time, it has been part of the philosophy of the PLP and the policy of successive Bahamian governments, PLP and FNM, that a work permit would not be issued to a foreigner unless a Bahamian was not was not available or qualified for the job. And there's a whole statutory regime that must be followed in order for the foreigner to be able to get the work permit. The Labor Board must certify that a Bahamian is not available for the job, and then the Department of Immigration will then issue the work permit. So here now today, we have new law that has completely scrapped that entire regime that was meant to ensure that here in the Bahamas, jobs are first and foremost for Bahamians. Now, what's interesting to me is that as we are discussing this Commercial Enterprises Act, we as a country are about to celebrate a landmark in our country's history. We will celebrate the 51st anniversary of majority rule on January 10th. And as a young person, I find it incredibly amazing to think of how far we've come, but simultaneously, how some things have not changed. I will read to you various excerpts from a speech given by our now former Governor General, Sir Arthur Hanna. The speech was given in 2010, and it discusses the state of the Bahamas when the PLP first came into power. I quote Sir Arthur: "When we took office, we found that although the Bahamas enjoyed some measure of prosperity, ordinary Bahamians were not part of it. Apart from some waiters and cleaners, the hotels imported practically all of their remaining staff. Ordinary Bahamians were out of the banking industry except as cleaners and messengers. We were met with excuses everywhere that Bahamians were not ready or were not qualified. We knew that our duty was the noble task of getting Bahamians to be able to get a suitable job in his or her own country. We knew we had to Bahamianize, a term we later invented." He goes on to say, "Where it appeared that a Bahamian could be suitably employed, we asked the employer to give us a timetable on when he would be in a position to employ the Bahamian. Sometimes there were outright refusals, as some banking and other financial institutions advocated, for instance, that Bahamians can never be trust officers, as their clients are opposed to local trust officers handling their business." He goes on to say, "In fact, we met resistance everywhere, even from some Bahamians who protested that our ambition to Bahamianize. We persisted, however, and the result is there for all to see." Now, here's what's interesting to me as it relates to the present day and the Commercial Enterprises Act. A.D. Hanna, in his speech in 2010, went on to say, "The F&M was in opposition to us, and they strongly objected to our policy of Bahamianization on the ground that it interfered with both foreign and Bahamian businesses and was a hindrance to foreign investment. We PLPs do not share that position. We do not sacrifice our countrymen on the altar of greed, and we do not believe that it is wrong to insist that that Bahamians be employed wherever they are capable. Our ambition then and now is to allow Bahamians to be employed in every aspect of development. Bahamianization means not only being able to get jobs, but also to partake fully in the development of our country." A.D. Hanna then goes on to rightly say, "There is no need to abandon the policy of Bahamianization, nor hand over our hard-won assets to foreigners and ignore the ambition of our people. As we as a country prepare to celebrate the milestone in which the majority of Bahamians finally had a say in their country, it is incumbent on us to take note of history and ensure that we do not repeat it. Anything that strips away at the policy of Bahamianization is not good for the Bahamas." So, that bit of history lesson from Sir Arthur Hanna shows why Bahamians are so vehemently opposed to this Commercial Enterprises Bill, and why young Bahamians should be wary and vigilant. We, the majority of Bahamians, owe a great deal to the policy of Bahamianization. Many of us today are successful in law, financial services, tourism, and other fields because those who came before us fought for the Bahamianization of our economy. While seeking to expand our economic pie, we must be careful not to repeat the mistakes of the past, lest we find the pie expanded, but we still somehow have less to eat. So my primary objective by this speech tonight is to get young people seriously thinking about the laws and policies that are being advanced today, and to make clear that whether you are F&M, PLP, DNA, or unaffiliated, or couldn't care less about political parties, that we are Bahamians first, and we must do all in our power to ensure that any government advances in this Bahamas is for the benefit of all Bahamians. As PYL Chair, our party's youth leader, my larger message for young people is to reject the feeling that we can't do anything, to reject the urge to be apathetic, because we are facing real issues that require us to be vigilant and that require us to stand up and be counted. Young people can be a force and a dynamic source of progress, and they have undoubtedly throughout history participated, contributed, and even catalyzed to important changes in political systems. It is our time here in the Bahamas and our time here in the PLP to use young people to bring about great change in our party and great change in our country. Think of all the progress that can be made when we join forces with young people. There wouldn't be a challenge in this country that we couldn't tackle. I believe that our future is brighter than our past, and I believe that our party's best days are still ahead of us. And I believe that because I believe young people will lead our party and our country to greater days. And if you share that belief with me, I need you to say that you are with the PLP all the way. So PLP, all the way. PLP, all the way. PLP, all the way. Thank you.